cops on me. On a mission to be champs since they let me free.
Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell, have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing, a fight to the death. Busting boulders. Every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout, now I'm the $1 million champ.
What is going on, everybody? Another episode of Cheap Seats Box Show. Angelo here running solo as JP is on the mend. Rotator cuff problems. Too many innings last year. Pitched for JP, but he will be back. He's just off work. That's all it is. I know it's been a couple weeks, people, but life and other things get in the way sometimes. And since we do this shit for free, fuck it. You really can't complain. But appreciate everybody who's been saying they missed the show. First things first, you know how we do. Follow us on Twitter at Cheap Seats Box, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review. You will be the next unofficial sponsor. We always shout you out for helping spread the word of the show. That's what we like to do with everybody. We just take time to appreciate what you guys do for us, and it helps keep the show noticeable, like we always say. So get out there, do that. We are a top 5, 6, 7 show on every platform. So when people search boxing, we're one of the first shows they see, and it's because of listeners like you. So I appreciate that. Email us cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Questions, comments. Oh, I know people got some comments going on about the Canelo situation, which we hit on when it first broke a couple weeks ago, and more shit is going down, and we will hit on that. Welcome to all the listeners, all the platforms. You know who it is. It's everybody. It's everywhere. It's places we didn't even know existed. All right, so here's what I missed. Nothing much last week, really. I'm not going to talk Lucas Brown, Dillian White. If White gets a shot at Wilder in the interim before a Wilder Joshua unification, I'm not totally against it. This fight could be built up. At least you don't want Joshua's first fight to be the first fight in the U.S. to be against Wilder. You want there to be a little bit of a build up. As far as him being in the U.S. fighting on prime time rather than in the middle of the afternoon. If they're going to go to the U.K. and do it, then so be it. Then we don't need the filler fight. And Brown had been knocked out in sparring the week before the fight, and I think that showed. So there's not really much to take from it. White did what he was supposed to do. The week before, I did miss. You know, I didn't get to predict, which I would have predicted, of course. I think maybe I did predict. Maybe I did get on there and predict a Jose Ramirez late round stoppage, which didn't happen. Jose Ramirez defeats Amir Imam in a 12-round decision, and it was a pretty impressive win. We're seeing an elevation of Jose Ramirez's game, the relentlessness of him. Like, he's not a big puncher, and give Imam credit. If he was this tough against Granados, I think he absolutely would have won. I think he absolutely would have beat Granados. And forgive me if I did talk about it. I don't think I did. It was 2 weeks ago. Honestly, I can't remember, guys. It's been a while. So I'll hit it again. I don't give a shit. So look, him and Regis Prograis look to be on a collision course. It has been mandated. We'll see if they do a interim fight, a little step aside fee to help build that one, which I wouldn't be totally against. But if they fight straight on, just remember, if you fight straight on Regis, you're probably going to go to Fresno. If there's an interim fight in between, you might be able to get that fight in LA, which isn't as much of a. It's not going to be the kind of crowd. It's not going to be a 13,000 sellout. You know what I mean? So you got to pick your poison. What do you want? And then this week, let's just get into this week. It's an interesting fight. Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. A 3-belt unification. Parker's WBO and Joshua's WBA and IBF belts are on the line in Cardiff, Wales. Based off of the fact that Parker has not looked that good the last couple of fights, you would tend to lean that it's going to be a blowout by Joshua. But, it should be more competitive, I think, especially in the beginning. It should be a little bit more competitive than people will give it credit for. I think Parker's going to be able to take Joshua's power. I expect it to go 12 rounds. I expect Joshua to hit Parker early on enough to where Parker is going to pretty much just be sticking out the jab and moving around, and an occasional right hand thrown by Parker as he tries to get away. So I just see that coming forward and the number of punches. I think Joshua will outwork him, and I think he'll do plenty to get a decision. But don't be shocked that if any point Joshua gets Parker into any kind of trouble, that they won't do their absolute best to get Joshua the stoppage win. I think there's no doubt about that. We saw that with the Takam fight. They were really quick to jump in to save that perfect knockout streak. But I look to see, honestly, if all goes how it should, I see Anthony Joshua winning 116-112. And, I think and him getting rounds, I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. I think it's going to be a good thing. It's just like even the Wilder fight. Even though I had him down, he got the knockout win. He got 10 rounds. That's good work for him. These are the things that they need. He got, 11 with Klitschko. What did he get? When did they finally stop at the 10th round? 11th round against Takam. So he can go the rounds. I think he's going to manage his stamina a little bit better. I think he's going to be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more in control, just like he was in the Takam fight, in this fight. So I don't see him getting tired and then Parker jumping in on him towards the end of the fight. I don't see it. Plus, Parker kind of fades. He's been fading. But we're going to see the best version, I think, of Parker that we've seen since before the Ruiz fight. So he's going to give a good showing of himself. Don't be surprised if Parker wins 2 of the first 3 rounds. It's not going to be that big of a shock if he does that. But at the end of the day, I don't see too many ways that Parker beats Joshua, but I can see every other way that Joshua could beat him. Could he get clipped? Sure. Joshua's chin's not the best, so but in the end, I think he's going to do plenty to get a clear, non-controversial, easy decision win against Joseph Parker, which only sets up more for the Wilder unification for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. Now we know Wilder has been banned from coming into the ring, so he decided he's not coming to the UK for this fight. It is what it is, people. They're gonna look. Dillian White is the mandatory. So if they have an interim fight, that's going to be the fight. He's going to get a mandatory out of the way. Honestly, when was the last time he actually fought a mandatory? I don't think he has. Or am I missing something? Because I know he was going to against Povetkin. That fight never went through. I don't think he's ever fought a mandatory. He's had the title for 3 years. Never had a mandatory defense. Am I missing one? Because it wasn't Ortiz. And there's no way it could have been any of those other guys. Could it have been? There's no way. So look for that fight to finally probably happen in the interim. Even if it's a split site, doubleheader for those guys, don't be shocked if that's how they do it. One on Showtime. Well, they'll probably both be on Showtime because until his contract runs out with Showtime, he's going to be a Showtime fighter. It's no doubt that he's going to end up getting moved over to HBO eventually. I think that's the way that the plans are, and that's the way that it looks like they're lining it up. So we'll see what happens. the good thing is we got some intrigue in the heavyweight division, which we haven't had for such a long time. You'd have it in spots here and there for certain fights, but now there's a build-up, there's an anticipation of things to come, and just let's just enjoy it for what it is for now, because we could go another 10 years where it doesn't mean shit like it has been. Now let's get into this Canelo Triple G thing again. Now, when we talked, it had literally just broke, and we were pretty much on the side. Look, it looks like Canelo's dirty. A lot of people went on making the defense videos. Not every positive is the same. There's nuances to this. Yeah, there are, but then there's sometimes you just kind of have to use. Because none of us are true experts in this. It's rare that there are true experts in it. And even the ones who are seem to be on the end of, well, Canelo didn't do it. But then things just lined up to make it look very, very suspicious. Let's be honest. This clenbuterol thing, right? This tainted meat bullshit that you always hear from the defense for people who get it. Why is it always the very first test that they take? Why is it always in the beginning of training camp? If it's tainted meat, then it should just be coming in the middle of training camp. It's not like you can't eat a steak 3 months out from the fight or 2 months out from the fight. So why wouldn't it just been sometime in March? Why wouldn't it be, maybe at the beginning of April? I mean, you're still eating, you're cutting weight, but you haven't gotten to that big cut yet. You're cutting weight at this point in training camp, but by diet and exercise, not by starvation. That starvation diet comes later. And then when you go into the actual facts of the situation, you got at the beginning of their very first test, right after they sign up, 10 times the limit, 10 times whatever it was on the second test, which is a few days later. A few days later after that, another test still in Mexico. Now it's totally clean. Now, if you're eating, generally when you're in training camp, you're probably going to be in a little area of where you're going to eat. You're going to eat at a lot of the same places. Or if you're going to a store to get your meat to cook it at home, you're getting it from the same butcher every time. So then that should not change throughout the time, because you're not going to go to this meat market, that meat market. If you have a restaurant that is yours, you're going to go to that one. But it's all, like I said, it's always at the beginning of time. All it shows is it looks like the levels keep on going down as he's cycling off. This drug is supposed to have a life of like a week in your system. And it played out exactly like that. Like it was a cycle off thing. And then the fact, this is what I'm talking about. You have to use your brain. You have to use logic and not, it's like, do I know that he did it on purpose? No. Do you know that he didn't? No. If you're one of the people who say, well, it's legit, it was tainted meat. So we have to, when we don't know, then we have to use logic. And the logic says the very first test came back dirty and then eventually started going down after that. I wonder why. 2, like I said, the way where you buy your meat. If he's eating at home and he's got a chef cooking it for him, he's getting it from the same meat market. That's where you're going to go. So it should still be in there. 3, this guy trains in Southern California. Yet, for the beginning of this training camp, as his test is going to come back dirty, he moves his training camp to Mexico? For what? And wasn't his camps were in other spots before that in the United States, never in Mexico. Not for many years now. And supposedly he's got these receipts from the restaurants that he ate at and all that stuff. It looks like they were covering their tracks. It's like, hey, look, this may not come back the way we want it. Let's line our shit up so we can make it follow the path that we want it to follow. Okay. Next thing, temporary suspension. We know that. Oh, it's standard practice, right? So people are like, don't be alarmed. Now, ticket sales are being refunded with fees. When does that ever happen? Hell, they didn't even do that in the UK for Joshua. After who was it? Pulev that pulled out and they put into Takam at the end. They didn't give no fucking discounts for that shit. They didn't give no refunds. And then now he's got a disciplinary hearing coming up on April 18th. And everybody's now changed their tune from, well, we don't know, and there's no way that it can, to, well, it looks like he might probably get a 6-month suspension. Well, why would he get the suspension? Like, even that it's gone this far, let you, and we know this is in Vegas. Vegas will do anything to get a fucking fight go through. Like we said before, they delayed Floyd Mayweather's prison sentence. They gave him the temporary, or the therapeutic use exemption for getting the IV at home right after the weigh-in before the Pacquiao fight. Trust me, Nevada will do what the fuck they can do to make the fight go on. The fact that they're dragging their feet along through this lets you know that, yeah, he's probably, and when I say probably a 90% chance, he is guilty, that he was actually intentionally doing this. You have to kind of just put the pieces in, put them like what would a detective do? We've seen detective shows before. They put up the evidence and see where the evidence leads them. Now we know that's not happens in real life. They usually get the suspect and they make the evidence lead to that one suspect. But in this case, we'll just line up the facts as I laid them out, because those are the facts, and you tell me what's more likely the scenario, that he actually did do the tainted meat, or that it looks suspicious enough to warrant a suspension, which means he probably was guilty. And the fact that Golden Boy got out in front of this before it came out, they wanted to release the press release, which lets you know they're getting in front of the story. Canelo, who failed a test that he insisted on in negotiations, it just lets you know they're laying that groundwork, that foundation, that this shit looks suspicious. It is a bad look. Now, all the people who did all these long videos defending him, or would get on everybody's timeline on Twitter defending him, where are you at now? Are you going to make the video saying, you know what, I was wrong, it looks like he was guilty? See, what you will get now is a 15-second retraction on a 15-minute video where you were defending the situation at hand. It's just typical stuff. It looked suspicious. It was suspicious. And let's be honest, in the end, he probably was doing it. I mean, we were right from the beginning. We just used the logic as we saw it, and it led us to that path. Now, what does Triple G do if this fight is pushed back 6 months? Well, which would probably not push it back 6 months. It would probably push it back 4 months. Is that, well, then that's another thing. If his hearing is on the 18th and he gets a 6-month suspension, should it not start from the time of the suspension? Because if that's the case, then they couldn't actually fight. It would have to be like the weekend after. No, it would be what? October. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe they'll retro it for 1 month. It's hard to tell, man. It's really hard to tell. Will they retro it to now? So in the meantime, if you're Triple G, you gotta have backup plans. Now we know Boo Boo Andrade is out there trying to get a fight, and why wouldn't he? I mean, you know that Tom Lawler's got to be talking to Gomez and De La Hoya, talking about like, what's the likelihood that he's going to get suspended, because we got a 36-year-old fighter who is in dire need of some action because he hasn't fought in 8 months. He's going to have to get that. He's going to have to fight because he's getting to the age to where a year off would be way too long. So you can't sit around and wait. So you got to have contingency plans. Is it going to be Andrade? Is it going to be a guy like Charlo? Would Charlo try to get in there? I doubt you're really going to get those guys. Charlo's in training camp now for a fight next month, but I doubt that that's where it's going to go. Could you get a Derevianchenko? I think he is one of the mandatories for one of his belts. See, that's the thing is is as much as we want to have the names like Charlo and Jacobs and even Android, because he hasn't fought a mandatory in over a year on any belt, that as soon as that falls through, these mandatories are going to be pushed. Now, the WBC won't push it because we know that the Canelo's, they pretty much put this on hold. The WBA has put a final eliminator for the Jacobs, whatever that guy's name he's fighting is, right? So there's 2 of the belts. The IBF belt now, I think it's the Derevyanchenko. And the WBO, is Billy Saunders' belt. So it doesn't really matter. Again, just going by, you just got to look at where the facts lead you. Well, you can get a mandatory with the IBF, which is always a stickler on their mandatories. We'll see what they can do. I don't know what Derevyanchenko has lined up, but look for that to be the name if a replacement is needed. And he could actually push that fight to June if he needed to, because the earliest he might be able to fight Canelo, if they do it from the time of the hearing, isn't until October. Now, if they start that suspension in March, if he does get it, then yeah, you got to still stay in May. But I think anybody's going to jump at that chance to get those 3 belts from Golovkin. So that's the way I see them playing that out. If he gets suspended, which honestly, who knows? Because trust me, like I said, Nevada's going to try to do what they can. I think Derevyanchenko is going to be the guy to get the fight in the interim. If they don't, we'll go on as business as usual. There'll be a great storyline to sell the fight, to build the animosity, to build the hype and the talk and the anticipation of this fight. So bad publicity is still publicity, and it's still a good thing for them. So one way or the other, that's going to be the ways that it works. It's one of those 2 ways. I don't see any other scenario. I mean, I guess they could find any filler, but I think that's the way you go. You get one of your mandatories out of the way. That way they don't start stripping belts from you. Last thing, let's talk about this Jermall Charlo rant video that he had on our good buddies Gervonta Davis and Adrian Broner. Now Jermall Charlo has been on a roll lately. He had the video of him and Jacobs going at it, talking trash to each other. And then this one, I don't know what the fuck he was on, if he was drunk or whatever. But Jermall Charlo goes on the rant talking about how much of a bum Broner is. He's about to get his ass whooped. He's fighting on his undercard. Shouldn't be fighting on his undercard. Don't disagree. Starts talking to Gervonta Davis. Basically calling him a bitch. I mean, there's no other way around it. Tell him he's going to grab him by his nostrils and pick him up and shit like that. That's some good comedy right there. The fact of the matter is, probably nothing's going to happen to him. They ain't going to do shit. They just jaw at each other. They'll kind of be like basketball players. Somebody may throw a fake punch, but ain't nobody going to do shit. But Jermall Charlo is actually starting to teeter on the line. As much as I like the shit talking, as much as I like the persona that the Charlo brothers have actually built, he's starting to cross the line. There already was the incident in the club. All right? You're starting to make stupid-ass decisions. Get your ass back to Texas. You kind of need to be, you need to be on a leash. Like, they got to keep you in line. Because when you're getting a little free, it's starting to cross the line to where it's going to start to turn off people. As much as it got people excited and people on the Charlo bandwagon, it's going to push people over the edge and kind of push them off. You will still keep some, but you will lose some. Because in the last couple of years, you and your brother have built a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon, but there will start to be people who will jump off. Now, that is not the worst thing in the world, because now you're going to have people who actually hate you, so then you got the love-hate thing, which is always a great selling point. But as somebody who has been on the Jermall Charlo bandwagon when he was the undercard for his brother, I would like to see him keep on adding to where he had gotten with the J-Rock win and the move up to 160 and the threat that he looks to be even to guys like Canelo and Triple G. It would be hard to say that him and Triple G is at worst a 60-40 fight in Triple G's advantage, probably closer to 50-50. That's where Jermall Charlo has gotten to, and people are actually believing in the hype of the Charlos. But like I said, he's pushing it now to the edge to where it's like, I like this guy, but I can't get behind all the antics. It's starting to be over the top. That's just me. And that's coming from a guy who likes him. So I as much as I laughed at the video, and anytime anybody talk shit about Adrian Broner, it's always a fun thing. Even Gervonta Davis, like, really, that's, you shouldn't. And him and Broner doing their little video things. I haven't seen them. I've only seen pictures of them. But honestly, is that the guy you really want to be idling up to? Is Adrian Broner? You know, Tank is on. He is on the fast path to being the next Broner. Remember, you've only won one title. At least Broner had, yeah, he may have been handed them. He got 4 of them. You got to start acting the fucking part. You want to be a big timer. Act like a big timer. Don't act like a small timer trying to be a big timer, because that's how it comes off. It comes off as fake, as phony, as a gimmick. And if people don't, here's the thing. Now let's use that word gimmick. That is derived from wrestling. Ric Flair took it from Gorgeous George. Muhammad Ali took it from Gorgeous George. Floyd Mayweather took it from the WWF or WWE when he was in there. They build these personas, but if people don't believe the gimmick that you're selling, then they won't believe in you. And that's what happens is a lot of times these guys build a gimmick, but it's not believable. It doesn't come off like that's who you are. And that's why Tank Davis, they don't believe it. Bro, it just looks to be a gimmick. It doesn't look to be them. It's like, I didn't even know what a good wrestling characterization would be. I guess we can go all the way back to the late Owen Hart. Owen Hart as just a bad guy straight up as himself. People believed it. A stupid ass character like the Blue Blazer, nobody gave a shit about, even though they knew it was him. Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, he had all these things in wrestling. People believed in Mankind. People believed in the Cactus Jack. They really, really got behind those characters. The Mick Foley thing, it was fun. It was good. It was gimmicky though. People didn't believe it as a crazy tough guy, even though he's the same person who fell off the fucking top of the cage. People didn't buy it as much as Mick Foley as they did when it was Mankind. It meant more. And this is what they do when they get into their gimmicks. These boxers, now they get into their gimmicks, they take it to the part of cartoonish. And then it doesn't come off as authentic. If it's not authentic, people won't buy it. If people don't buy it, then they think you're phony. If they think you're phony, then they just talk shit about you, and they don't really care about you. They stop caring about you. This is why you've seen, it doesn't matter that Broner has lost a few fights. People don't believe it anymore. They don't believe the persona. That's why his ticket sales go down. That's why his viewership goes down. Losses never hurt a guy like De La Hoya. They never hurt a guy like Pacquiao because people believe the gimmick. Holyfield, people believe the gimmick. These, trust me, look at their smiley faces. They're all gimmicks. But people believe them, so losses never hurt them. So these guys, they have to understand that if people don't believe your gimmicks, and that's where Charlo's going on to. He's starting to get cartoonish with it. Stop. Don't cross that line. Go back to how you were 6 months ago. You and your brother just talking a little bit of shit, but not going over the top. It starts to become hacky and not believable. And I love the Charlo brothers. I'm one of the few guys who, in the beginning, me and JB been talking about them in loving the Charlos when everybody else was off the bandwagon. They have now come back onto the bandwagon, but I don't want to see everybody jumping off because these guys are legit, and people will stop caring about them again. So Jermall, stop with the video. Stop hanging in the club with fucking money in your bag and all that bullshit. Don't go down the Broner Tank path. You're better than that. So I'm going to cut it off there, guys. Like I said, solo show, half hour. Again, follow the show on Twitter, @CheapSeatsBox. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, rate, review. You'll be next unofficial sponsor. We always shout you out. That's what we do. We love spreading the love. Follow us on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to it if you watch it, whatever. Just keep on subscribing to it. I want to keep on building that. It's a slow fucking build. Trust me, guys. And we're not the best at keeping up on this shit. So I apologize for that. Look out for the show. It should be back full throttle next week. It'll be both of us. It's been a while. I know, guys. It's how it gets sometimes. I apologize. Again, I appreciate the people who've been asking for it. It's here. It's back. At least an abbreviated version. But goddamn it, you got something, right? We got to talk about all the good stuff. Again, thank you to everybody who's always supporting the show. And remember, like JP says, this is where the fighters fight and the fans commentate. And you know we do it just like you from the cheap seats. Because we ain't buying no tickets, goddammit. Peace.
Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion. Call me crazy, but no one can fade me. I'm the product of the projects. Lost and crazy. Throw your hands up, Mr. Bruno. Ride. Big Mike Tyson about to brutalize that ass tonight. No hesitation for the whole nation. I'll beat that ass so bad I'll probably violate probation. Do demonstration as I strategize information. Intent to kill, so it's real like I'm catching cases. Let the world know I plan to die. If I don't leave with what I came for,